Princess Isabella stood at the tall windows of Raven's Hollow Castle, watching the morning mist roll across the ancient gardens. At 28, she had grown accustomed to the weight of expectation that came with being the future Queen of Eldermere. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, and her emerald eyes reflected the same determination that had made her grandmother, Queen Cordelia, one of the most beloved monarchs in the kingdom's history. The castle buzzed with quiet activity as servants prepared for what everyone believed would be an ordinary Tuesday. Isabella had no idea that this day would change everything she thought she knew about her royal destiny. A gentle knock interrupted her thoughts. "Your Highness, Princess Margot requests your presence in the blue drawing room," announced Lady Catherine. "Isabella's long-time lady-in-waiting." The formality in her voice suggested something important was happening. Princess Margot was Isabella's great-aunt, the Queen's younger sister who had devoted her life to royal duty rather than marriage. At 75, she remained sharp as a blade and twice as dangerous when protecting family secrets. She rarely requested private audiences unless the matter was of great importance. Isabella made her way through the castle's winding corridors, her heels clicking against the marble floors. Portraits of her ancestors watched from gilded frames, their painted eyes seeming to follow her progress. She had walked these halls thousands of times, but today felt different somehow, as if the very walls were holding their breath. The blue drawing room was Margot's favorite space. Decorated in rich sapphire velvet and cream silk, ancient tapestries told stories of battles won and kingdoms united. Margot sat in her usual chair by the fireplace, her silver hair perfectly coiffed despite the early hour. Her hands, still graceful despite her age, held an ornate wooden box that Isabella had never seen before. "Isabella, my dear child," Margot began, her voice carrying the authority that came from decades of royal training. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Isabella settled into the chair across from her great-aunt, curiosity building in her chest like a gathering storm. Margot's blue eyes, so similar to her own grandmother's, held secrets that seemed to weigh heavily on her shoulders. "Your coronation approaches," Margot continued, referring to the ceremony planned for the following spring when Isabella would officially become queen. "There are things you must know before you take the throne, things that have been kept hidden for your own protection." The wooden box creaked as Margot opened it slowly. Inside, nestled in midnight blue velvet, lay the most extraordinary piece of jewelry Isabella had ever seen. It was a necklace unlike anything in the royal collection, featuring a pendant shaped like a silver tree with branches that seemed to move in the light. Tiny diamonds formed leaves that sparkled like stars, and at the center hung a sapphire so deep blue it appeared almost black. "This is the heart of Eldermere," Margot explained, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "It has been hidden for 50 years, waiting for the right moment to be revealed." Isabella's breath caught in her throat. She had heard whispers of such a piece in old royal records, but most historians believed it was merely legend. "I thought it was lost during the war," she managed to say. Margot's smile was sad but knowing. "That is what we allowed everyone to believe. Your grandmother, Queen Cordelia, made a difficult decision during the dark days when enemy forces threatened our kingdom. She hid the heart of Eldermere and swore that it would only be revealed when Eldermere faced its greatest challenge or when a worthy heir was ready to unlock its true purpose." "What do you mean by true purpose?" Isabella asked, leaning forward in her chair. The necklace seemed to pulse with its own inner light, drawing her attention like a magnet. "The heart of Eldermere is more than just a piece of royal jewelry," Margot explained, carefully lifting the necklace from its resting place. "It is the key to a secret that could change the future of our kingdom. Your grandmother discovered something during her reign, something that she could not act upon but hoped future generations might be brave enough to pursue." Isabella watched as her great-aunt's fingers traced the intricate metalwork of the pendant. Each detail was perfect, from the tiny leaves to the delicate roots that seemed to grow from the bottom of the tree design. During the renovation of the old Tower Library, Queen Cordelia found hidden documents that revealed the existence of the lost territories of Valdres, Margot continued. Lands that rightfully belonged to Eldermere but were thought lost forever during the ancient wars. The heart of Eldermere contains a map, Isabella. A map that could restore our kingdom to its original glory. The implications hit Isabella like a physical blow. The lost territories were taught about in history classes as a romantic legend, lands of incredible beauty and resources that had been separated from Eldermere centuries ago. If they truly existed and could be reclaimed, it would double the size of their kingdom and solve many of the economic challenges they currently faced. Why didn't grandmother act on this information? Isabella asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. Because she was wise enough to know that the time was not right, Margot replied. Our kingdom was still recovering from war. Our people needed stability, not another conflict. But now, with you as our future queen and with the changing political landscape around us, the opportunity may finally be here. Margot stood and moved closer to Isabella, holding the necklace toward her. This is your inheritance, but it comes with great responsibility. You must decide whether you are ready to bear not just the weight of the crown, but the weight of destiny itself. Isabella's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the heart of Eldermere. The moment her fingers touched the cool metal, she felt a strange sensation, as if the necklace was somehow alive and responding to her touch. The sapphire in the center seemed to glow brighter, and for just a moment she could swear she saw something moving within its depths. There's more you need to know, Margot said. Settling back into her chair, the heart of Eldermere was created by the royal family's most trusted advisors 300 years ago. It was designed to reveal its secrets only to those of true royal bloodline who possess the wisdom and courage to use its power responsibly. Isabella fastened the necklace around her neck, feeling its weight settle against her collarbone. Immediately, she noticed something extraordinary happening. The pendant grew warm against her skin, and suddenly she could see faint lines of light appearing across its surface, forming what looked like the outline of a map. You see it? Margot observed with satisfaction. That confirms what we hoped. You are indeed the rightful heir not just to the throne, but to the greater destiny that awaits Eldermere. The map that appeared on the pendant was intricate and detailed, showing coastlines and mountain ranges that Isabella didn't recognize. There were symbols marking specific locations, and what appeared to be a route leading from their current kingdom to lands across the Western Sea. The lost territories of Valdres lie beyond the Whispering Islands, Margot explained, pointing to areas on the pendant that Isabella was beginning to understand. According to the hidden documents, they are inhabited by descendants of our own people, cut off from Eldermere for so long that they may not even remember their true heritage. Isabella looked up from the mesmerizing pendant to meet her great-aunt's eyes. What am I supposed to do with this knowledge? Even if the territories exist, claiming them would require resources we don't have and could provoke neighboring kingdoms. That is exactly the wisdom your grandmother hoped you would possess, Margot said with evident pride. This is not about conquest, Isabella. It's about reunion. The people of Valdres have been living in isolation for centuries, struggling to survive without the support of their homeland. If we approach this correctly, it could be a peaceful restoration that benefits everyone. The morning sun had climbed higher while they talked, casting golden light through the tall windows. Isabella could hear the distant sounds of the castle coming fully to life as courtiers and staff began their daily routines. Soon, people would be looking for her, expecting her to attend to her usual royal duties, completely unaware that everything had changed. I need time to process this, Isabella admitted, her hand instinctively moving to touch the pendant beneath her dress. "This is not a decision I can make lightly." "Of course not," Margot agreed. "Your grandmother spent months studying the implications before she decided to hide the heart of Eldermere. But remember, Isabella, you are not alone in this. There are others who share this secret, trusted advisors who have been waiting for this moment." Isabella's mind raced with questions and possibilities. The weight of the necklace around her neck felt symbolic of the much heavier burden of choice she now carried. Everything she had been trained for as the future queen suddenly seemed like preparation for something much larger than ruling a single kingdom. As she prepared to leave the blue drawing room, Margot caught her arm gently. "One more thing, my dear. The heart of Eldermere must remain hidden from all but our most trusted allies until you decide how to proceed. There are those who would use this knowledge for their own purposes, and others who would see it as a threat to the current balance of power." Isabella nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As she walked back to her chambers, the pendant seemed to pulse gently against her skin, reminding her with every step that her life had just taken a turn toward a destiny she had never imagined possible. 3 days had passed since Princess Isabella received the heart of Eldermere, and she found herself unable to focus on anything else. The pendant remained hidden beneath her clothing during public appearances, but she could feel its presence constantly, like a second heartbeat against her chest. Every time she touched it, the mysterious map appeared more clearly, revealing details she hadn't noticed before. Late Tuesday evening, Isabella made her way to the castle's most secure location, the royal archives deep beneath the main structure. These underground chambers housed centuries of royal documents, including the most sensitive state secrets. Princess Margot had arranged for her to meet someone there, someone who had been part of Queen Cordelia's inner circle during the discovery of the heart of Eldermere. The archives were lit by warm electric lights that cast dancing shadows on the stone walls. Ancient books and scrolls lined shelves that stretched from floor to ceiling, creating a maze of knowledge that few people were ever permitted to enter. Isabella's footsteps echoed softly as she made her way deeper into the labyrinth of history. "Your Highness," came a familiar voice from behind a towering shelf of leather-bound volumes. Lord Marcus Blackwood emerged from the shadows, his tall frame moving with the careful grace of someone who had spent decades navigating royal politics. At 62, he served as the kingdom's chief historian and had been one of Queen Cordelia's most trusted advisors. "Lord Blackwood," Isabella replied, grateful to see a friendly face in the underground maze. "Aunt Margot said you could help me understand what my grandmother discovered." Marcus nodded gravely, his steel-gray hair catching the light as he led her to a special reading room that had been prepared for their meeting. On the table lay several ancient documents, their parchment yellow with age, but their contents still clearly visible. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," Marcus began as they settled into comfortable chairs. "When she found these documents, she immediately understood their significance and the danger they represented." Isabella leaned forward to examine the papers. The handwriting was old-fashioned but readable, written in the formal style used by royal scribes centuries ago. Maps, genealogies, and official seals covered the documents, telling a story she had never heard in any history class. "These are the original treaties signed when the lost territories of Valdres were separated from Eldermere," Marcus explained, pointing to specific sections of the documents. "What most people don't know is that the separation was meant to be temporary, a protective measure during a time of great warfare." Isabella studied a map that showed the current borders of their kingdom alongside the territories that had once been part of it. The lost territories were significantly larger than she had imagined, with coastlines that would give Eldermere access to important trade routes and resources that could transform their economy. "According to these documents," Marcus continued, The people of Valdris were never meant to be cut off permanently. There are provisions for reunion when certain conditions are met. He pointed to a section of text written in elaborate script. The conditions include a time of peace lasting at least 25 years, a proven royal heir of direct bloodline, and possession of the heart of Eldermere as proof of legitimate claim. Isabella's pulse quickened as she realized the implications. "We've had peace for 30 years since the border conflicts ended," she said slowly. "I am the direct heir, and now I have the heart of Eldermere." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "All the conditions have been met for the first time in 300 years. But your grandmother was wise to wait. The political situation wasn't stable enough during her reign to attempt something this significant." A new voice interrupted their conversation. "But it might be now." Isabella turned to see Captain Elena Valdez entering the reading room. The captain of Isabella's personal guard was someone she trusted completely, but she was surprised to find her here among the keepers of royal secrets. "Captain Valdez knows about this?" Isabella asked, looking between Marcus and Elena. "Captain Valdez is more than just your guard," Marcus explained. "Her family has served the royal family for generations, and her great-grandmother was one of the original settlers who helped establish the safe houses that maintain contact with Valdris." Isabella stared at Elena in amazement. The captain was a few years older than Isabella, with dark hair always pulled back in a practical style and intelligent brown eyes that missed nothing. They had known each other for years, but Isabella realized there had always been layers of mystery surrounding Elena's background. "There are still people in Valdris who remember their connection to Eldermere," Elena revealed, settling into a chair across from Isabella. "My family has maintained secret communication with them for decades through a network of traders and sailors. They've been waiting for someone from the royal family to reclaim them." This revelation changed everything Isabella thought she knew about the situation. "You mean they want to be reunited with Eldermere?" "Many of them do," Elena confirmed. "Life in the Lost Territories has been difficult. They're isolated from major trade routes, their resources are limited, and they've had to defend themselves against pirates and hostile neighboring islands for centuries. The older generation especially remembers the stories of their connection to our kingdom." Marcus spread out additional documents on the table. "These are more recent reports that Captain Valdez's family has gathered over the years. They show that Valdris has a population of approximately 50,000 people, rich fishing grounds, mineral deposits that include rare gems, and strategic ports that would significantly strengthen our kingdom's position." Isabella studied the reports, her mind racing with possibilities and concerns. "But surely there are also people in Valdris who have no interest in joining with a kingdom they've never known. And what about the other kingdoms in the region? They might see this as aggressive expansion." "You're absolutely right to consider those challenges," Marcus replied. "This is why your grandmother ultimately decided to wait and leave the decision to future generations. The approach would have to be extremely careful, diplomatic, and gradual." Elena leaned forward, her expression serious. "There's something else you should know. Recent intelligence suggests that the Kingdom of Thornwick has been eyeing the Lost Territories themselves. If we don't act soon, we might lose this opportunity forever." This news hit Isabella like cold water. Thornwick was a neighboring kingdom with a history of aggressive expansion. If they claimed Valdris, it would not only prevent Eldermere from reuniting with their lost people, but also put a hostile kingdom in control of strategic territories that could threaten their security. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" Isabella asked, feeling the weight of decision settling more heavily on her shoulders. "King Roderick of Thornwick has been building his navy and making diplomatic overtures to various island nations," Elena reported. "Our intelligence suggests he plans to move within the next 6 months, probably after the winter storms pass and sea travel becomes safer." Marcus pulled out a final document, this one more recent than the others. "This is a letter that arrived just last week through the secret network. It's from the Council of Elders in Valdres, requesting urgent contact with the royal family of Eldermere. Isabella read the letter carefully, her heart pounding as she absorbed its contents. The people of Valdres were indeed facing pressure from Thornwick, who had been sending envoys and making promises of protection in exchange for certain territorial concessions. The Council of Elders was asking for help from their ancestral homeland. They're specifically asking for someone from the royal family to come to Valdres with proof of their legitimate claim, Isabella said, looking up from the letter. They want to see the heart of Eldermere. Which brings us to the critical decision, Marcus said. Do you travel to Valdres to meet with their leaders and potentially formalize the reunion, knowing that it could provoke conflict with Thornwick and other neighboring kingdoms? Isabella stood and walked to a small window that provided a view of the castle grounds above. Through the thick glass, she could see the lights of the village beyond the castle walls, where thousands of people lived their daily lives trusting that their princess would make decisions that protected and benefited them. If I don't go, and Thornwick claims Valdres, we lose 50,000 people who want to be part of our kingdom, she mused aloud. But if I do go, I might be starting a conflict that could cost the lives of our own people. Elena joined her at the window. There might be a middle path, she suggested. What if we start with secret negotiations? I could travel to Valdres as a representative of the royal family, carrying the heart of Eldermere as proof of your claim. That would allow us to gauge the situation without publicly committing to anything. Marcus nodded approvingly. That's actually an excellent suggestion. It would give us time to prepare diplomatically while also establishing our legitimate claim before Thornwick can act. Isabella considered this proposal carefully. Sending Elena would be far less risky than going herself, but it would also mean trusting someone else with the most valuable secret in the kingdom. However, as she looked at her captain and friend, she realized that if she couldn't trust Elena with this mission, she couldn't trust anyone. What would such a mission involve? Isabella asked. I would take a small ship and sail to Valdres under the cover of being a trading expedition, Elena explained. Once there, I would meet privately with the Council of Elders, present the heart of Eldermere as proof of your claim, and negotiate the terms of potential reunion. And if Thornwick discovers what we're doing? That's a risk we'd have to manage carefully, Marcus acknowledged. But our intelligence network could help monitor Thornwick's activities and warn us if they become suspicious. Isabella felt the heart of Eldermere warm against her skin, as if responding to the intensity of the moment. When she touched the pendant through her dress, she could sense the map glowing beneath the fabric, reminding her of the destiny that awaited her decision. How long would such a mission take? She asked Elena. Approximately 3 weeks, Elena replied. 1 week to reach Valdres, 1 week for negotiations, and 1 week to return. If everything goes well, I could be back with a formal agreement before the winter storms make travel impossible. The room fell silent as Isabella weighed her options. Through the window, she could see the first stars appearing in the darkening sky, and she realized that the peaceful kingdom she had always known was about to change forever, regardless of what she decided. I need 1 night to think about this, Isabella said finally. Tomorrow evening, I'll give you my answer. As they prepared to leave the archives, Marcus gathered the documents carefully. Whatever you decide, Your Highness, know that your grandmother would be proud of the thoughtfulness you're bringing to this decision. Elena paused at the door. Isabella, I want you to know that I'm honored you would consider trusting me with this mission. Whatever you decide, I'll support completely. Later that night, alone in her chambers, Isabella stood on her private balcony looking out over the kingdom that would soon be hers to rule. The heart of Eldermere hung around her neck, its presence both comforting and daunting. In her hands, she held the letter from the Council of Elders, their words echoing in her mind. We have waited 300 years for our family to come home. The weight of 50,000 lives, the future of her kingdom, and the legacy of her grandmother all rested on the decision she would make tomorrow. As she touched the pendant one more time, Isabella realized she was no longer just preparing to be queen of the kingdom she had always known, but possibly the ruler of a realm much greater than she had ever imagined. Princess Isabella barely slept that night. She spent hours on her balcony, the heart of Eldermere in her hands, watching the pendant's mysterious map glow in the moonlight. By dawn, her decision was clear. The risk of losing Valdres to Thornwick far outweighed the dangers of action, and the people calling for help deserved an answer. The next evening, Isabella met Elena in the same secure room in the royal archives. Lord Marcus was present as witness to what would become one of the most significant moments in Eldermere's history. "I've made my decision," Isabella announced, her voice steady despite the enormity of what she was about to set in motion. "Captain Valdez, I'm entrusting you with the heart of Eldermere and authorizing you to negotiate on behalf of the crown for the peaceful reunion of Valdres with our kingdom." Elena knelt formally before her princess, the weight of the moment evident in her expression. "Your Highness, I accept this mission and swear to protect both the heart of Eldermere and the interests of our kingdom with my life." Isabella carefully removed the precious necklace and placed it around Elena's neck. The moment the pendant touched Elena's skin, something extraordinary happened. The heart of Eldermere glowed brightly, and Isabella gasped as she saw the map appear on its surface more clearly than ever before, with new details visible that seemed to confirm Elena's suitability as its bearer. "It accepts you," Isabella whispered in amazement. "The heart of Eldermere recognizes your family's connection to Valdres." Marcus documented everything carefully in his official records. "This moment marks the beginning of what we hope will be the restoration of the ancient kingdom," he said solemnly. "May history remember this as the night when courage triumphed over fear." Elena departed 3 days later aboard a swift merchant vessel called the Morning Star, disguised as a trading mission seeking new markets in the Western Islands. Isabella watched from the castle's highest tower as the ship sailed beyond the horizon, taking with it not just her most trusted friend, but also the key to her kingdom's future. The following 2 weeks were among the longest of Isabella's life. She maintained her normal royal duties, attending court functions and meeting with government ministers, all while her mind remained focused on Elena's mission. Princess Margot proved to be an invaluable source of strength during this period, often sitting with Isabella in the evenings to discuss contingency plans and possible outcomes. "Your grandmother went through something similar when she first discovered the heart of Eldermere," Margot shared one evening as they took tea in the blue drawing room. "The not knowing was almost harder than making the initial decision." On a stormy Thursday morning, exactly 18 days after Elena's departure, Isabella was reviewing agricultural reports when Lady Catherine burst into her office with unusual urgency. "Your Highness, Captain Valdez has returned. She's requesting immediate private audience." Isabella's heart raced as she hurried to the secure meeting room where Elena waited, still wearing traveling clothes and bearing the unmistakable signs of a difficult journey. But her eyes shone with triumph as she carefully removed the heart of Eldermere from beneath her cloak. "The mission was successful beyond our greatest hopes," Elena announced, placing the pendant reverently on the table. "The people of Valdres are not just willing to reunite with Eldermere, they're eager for it. The Council of Elders was overjoyed to see the heart of Eldermere and immediately recognized its authenticity." Isabella felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she could see there was more to Elena's story. "What challenges did you face?" "Thornwick had already sent envoys to Valdres, as we suspected," Elena reported, her expression growing serious. "But their approach was heavy-handed and threatening. They were demanding tribute and territorial concessions that would essentially make Valdres a vassal state, rather than offering genuine partnership." Elena spread out new documents on the table, including formal agreements signed by the Council of Elders of Valdris. When I presented the Heart of Eldermere and explained our offer of reunion as equals rather than conquest, the response was unanimous support from their leadership. Isabella studied the documents with growing excitement. The agreements outlined terms for gradual integration that respected Valdris's local customs, while bringing them under the protection and prosperity of Eldermere's crown. Trade agreements, defense pacts, and cultural exchange programs were all detailed in the carefully negotiated terms. "There's more," Elena continued, pulling out a small wooden box. "The Council of Elders asked me to bring you this as a gesture of good faith and proof of their commitment to reunion." Inside the box lay a ring unlike anything Isabella had ever seen. The band was made of the same silver as the Heart of Eldermere, and it featured a sapphire that seemed to be a perfect match for the one in the pendant. Delicate engravings around the band showed ships sailing between islands, symbolizing the connection between the separated lands. "This is the companion ring to the Heart of Eldermere," Elena explained. "It was kept safe in Valdris for 300 years, waiting for the day when the royal family would reclaim their lost territories. The council says that when worn together, the Heart of Eldermere and the companion ring will unlock the full power of the ancient bond between the lands." With trembling hands, Isabella slipped the ring onto her finger. Immediately, the Heart of Eldermere around Elena's neck blazed with light, and Isabella felt a surge of connection not just to the pendant, but to something much larger. For a moment, she could almost sense the presence of 50,000 people across the Western Sea, waiting to welcome her as their queen. "When do they want to formalize the reunion?" Isabella asked. "They're requesting that you come to Valdris for a coronation ceremony that would officially restore the ancient kingdom," Elena replied. "They want to crown you as Queen of United Eldermere in the place where the original separation occurred." The prospect was both thrilling and terrifying. Such a journey would be unprecedented for a ruling heir of Eldermere, and it would make their actions impossible to hide from other kingdoms. "What about Thornwick's reaction?" Isabella asked. "Their envoys were still in Valdris when I left," Elena reported. "By now they know that their offers have been rejected in favor of reunion with Eldermere. We should expect some form of response within the next few weeks." Princess Margot, who had been listening silently from her chair by the fireplace, finally spoke. "Your grandmother always said that the greatest moments in royal history require the greatest courage. The question is whether we're ready to be part of history or merely witnesses to it." Isabella looked around the room at the three people who had become the guardians of her kingdom's greatest secret. Elena, who had risked everything to make the mission succeed. Marcus, who had preserved the knowledge through decades of waiting. Margot, who had carried the burden of royal secrets with unwavering loyalty. They had all brought her to this moment of decision. "Send word to the Council of Elders," Isabella said, her voice filled with new authority. "Tell them that Princess Isabella of Eldermere accepts their invitation and will travel to Valdris within the month for the coronation ceremony that will restore our ancient kingdom." As she spoke these words, the Heart of Eldermere and the companion ring both pulsed with warm light, as if responding to the historic declaration. Outside, the storm that had been raging all morning suddenly cleared, and sunlight streamed through the windows of the castle. 3 weeks later, Princess Isabella stood on the deck of the royal ship, Queen Cordelia, watching the shores of Valdris appear on the horizon. She wore both the Heart of Eldermere and the companion ring, and she could feel the excitement of 50,000 people who had waited 3 centuries to welcome their royal family home. The coronation ceremony that took place on the ancient grounds where the kingdom had once been divided was witnessed by representatives from across the known world. When the crown of United Eldermere was placed on Isabella's head, combining elements from both the original Eldermere crown and ancient symbols from Valdris, The crowd's cheers could be heard across the entire island. Queen Isabella returned home 6 months later, not just as the ruler of a single kingdom, but as the sovereign of the largest and most prosperous realm in the region. The reunion had inspired loyalty and prosperity that exceeded even the most optimistic predictions, and the combined strength of the United Territories ensured that threats like those from Thornwick became distant concerns rather than immediate dangers. Years later, historians would write about Queen Isabella's decision to restore the lost territories as one of the defining moments of the era. But for Isabella herself, the true victory was not in the expansion of her kingdom, but in the knowledge that she had honored both her grandmother's wisdom and the trust of people who had never stopped believing that their royal family would one day come home. The heart of Eldermere remained her most treasured possession, not because of its power or beauty, but because it had taught her that the greatest secrets are often not meant to be kept forever, but to be revealed when the world is ready for the truth they contain.